just enter a blank space, and there's no opportunity for you. That's not fun. Mario's fun because the world is beautiful, because you can jump on the enemies, and there's a challenge presented with a princess to save. And Majora's Mask is fun because the same reason, there's a challenge involved. And the story may be good, that also makes it fun. But there's something about the challenge, and I think this word, I'm using this word because I think it's really significant, and I think because all I've been talking about in terms of what makes games so great, or what we can think about when we play games, is about us. The games reveal something about us because play reveals something about us, and we do make this distinction so often between work and play, and we separate ourselves out. And the reality is, of course, that we prefer play. And I think video games as a realm that a lot of us have a connection to, especially this generation, all these kids, right? They all love to play. And if we do think about them in terms of an opposition to work or an alternative or something like that, we lose the sense of how we can imbue, if we're the ones who like to play, and we can imbue all of our life with that sense of what we really like, which is play. And I don't think that would have to mean something like goofing around all the time or having no consequences, because games have consequences. That's part of the challenge. That's part of the difficulty. It's between difficult and easy. There's always consequences for what you do. If there weren't any, it wouldn't be very fun. So I think video games, or games in general, are kind of revealing about something about ourselves. I think we tend to thrive. Not that it's always so easy, but I think we tend to thrive on a challenge. But a challenge that encourages us. And I'm calling that possibility. We make things possible. And that's fun. I think that's fun. Maybe you guys, do you think that's fun? You don't have to agree with me, but I think that's fun. I mean, there are a lot of other things that are fun. I don't know why, but there's really stupid humor. That's all I think is funny. I don't know if that's the same. Fun? Game's fun. Fun is like an activity, I guess. Anyway, so I think this is one of my core ideas that I think just video games really highlight for me in my experience of playing them. And the big deal about games, and I think what they highlight, and I think games are reflective of life. I mean, they reflect all of our life. And I think it's the fact that they have rules. And I hate that this is so overlooked when we play games. Because when we think about games often, or in general, people think about games, it's usually treated as this boundless space, this escapist realm, this other place where things are better and different, we don't have the rules. There may be different conditions. There may be different rules in this space, because you can jump 20 feet, or you can fall on the ground from 1,000 stories up and not die. But every game is bound by limitations and rules. And I don't call that a finite game, I just call that necessity of this world, of anything that would be in this world, and that's what conditions the game. It gives the funny thing, I guess the paradox, the irony of it, is that the rule, the limitation, ultimately provides the condition for fun, right? Because it's the rules that provide the space of the challenge. And anyway, I just can't help but feel this is quite reflective of life as well. Because there are those laws of physics and stuff like that are always keeping me down, with gravity. I can't be two places at once and all that stuff. Always conditions to life. And they usually feel like restrictions, and games are the alternative because the rules are different. But ultimately, I think the fact that the rules of games, the fact that they provide an opportunity for a challenge that we seem to really enjoy and thrive on, I just wonder why we couldn't turn that around and just in general approach life with that exact same attitude. The rules maybe are, again, the rules are put on us. The video game developer makes the rules. I didn't make the rules. Same thing in life. God makes the rules. Whoever makes the rules. Nature makes the rules. So, I think video games are interesting in that way. I can't help but feel like there's a parallel between, and I just think it's revealing because it's about fun. And I just think it's crazy. What is this? Limits that make things fun. There are boundaries. I think there are boundaries only so you can see beyond the boundaries. Blank space is emptiness. It's boring. There's nothing to do. Zelda is fun because there's that realm of play that's created. Anyway, I think that's something. So, I'd like to. You guys want to play another game? Yes, no. We also are going really late. I don't want to. If you guys want to I kind of just decided to skip through and just make my thesis statement right now, and just say it. But there are some games that I could present if you guys are interested in looking at them. If not, we can call them that. I have no. Some people can stay, some people can do whatever you guys want.
Well, why don't we do that? If people have work they need to do, they can like head out, and we can have the like yay talking to people who like feel like staying behind, and like poking at some video games. Then this is also a thing which they could do.
Okay. So, what's the Oh,
Currently about 8:40.
Getting pretty late.
Alex, she wants echoing through my head.
What?
Shoes.
Oh, God, yes.
Okay, so
I know.
Okay. I mean, I'm just gonna start.
not just video games. Things.
All right, I'm gonna show you guys, and I think this is the other part of this class. One is like I tell you my thing about how I think video games are revealing about a way of like living that's awesome. I think that's what Cars is talking about when he talks about you don't like an attitude of play is one in which you choose, and whether it's finite or infinite, ultimately you can take an attitude of freedom, and video games tend to be like that. And I like games that are self-conscious in that way. I like games that are kind of self-aware and more provocative. And I don't know how many like genuinely. Did my computer die? Can I use this PowerPoint?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
It's really, really questionable how many like.
Are there people waiting outside?
Are there?
There might be people waiting outside.
Is that people waiting outside? Right next door. No, sorry.
Okay.
That's a good question to ask.
All right.
It would be like roaches scattered.
All right. Now, I'm sorry I just talked all that at you guys. What do you guys think of that? I think like it includes so much of Alex Denoble's thoughts about life and living, so it's kind of just like put out on you. But what do you guys think about that? Do you think video games like reflect that? I mean, it's an interpretive thing. It's not that they necessarily have to, but I think that we can certainly read them in such a way that they present this picture of living that is. Oh, well, you know what the word I didn't put up on there is interactivity. That's like the most characteristic thing of a game. Is that you? What Nicole's talking about, like you create. You're the one who plays. You're the one who makes the game happen. And that's why also I think that games are empowering. Is because, and it's funny that we treat them like they're the escape. Because usually, I mean, ultimately they just make us face ourselves more. We're the ones interacting with the game. We're the ones making it happen. Same way that like, I mean, there are games that are self-conscious about that. Has anybody played Eternal Darkness? I'm not going to talk about it. Has anybody played...
True darkness is no one being sent.
Yeah,
Wait, what
Where
is this game?
your memory card threatens to erase itself.
right.
Yeah.
Wait, what is
Yeah.
this game?
I remember hearing.
Oh yeah, that
People
one.
need
Yeah.
to explain this to me.
Okay, so Eternal Darkness is a game for the GameCube, and it's developed by an awesome company called Silicon Knights. And the concept is, it's this rich story that kind of like spans the course of history, and there's like this bloodline of people who, over time in different civilizations, have been kind of involved in the story of this evil, like god demon creature thing that's kind of entered the world. A Roman soldier met it, and then he's kind of doing its will over the course of time. And you play as different people in history. And the game's really awesome because just the controls are really well done, the history was like analyzed, like studied really well, and most notably the game's all about like fear and sanity. And you don't have a health meter, you have a sanity meter. And as you confront all these zombies and creatures and demons and evil things, you start to lose your mind. And the game is really interesting because the way that it plays with this is that there are insanity effects that happen. And they affect your character and they affect you as the player, both. So, for example, I mean, it's simultaneous. For one thing, like, your screen will start to tilt. Everything's on an angle, for example. And then random stuff will happen. Like, all of a sudden, there's a fly walking across the monitor. But it's in the game, it's digital. But you think there's a fly in your monitor. You, yourself, the player, out in your real-world space, are like, what's going on? Get this fly off my monitor. Or the volume, all of a sudden, will, like, shoot up. And you're like, oh, it's getting so wide, it's getting so loud. The game is doing this. Or you press start to, like, go to your item screen, and then it automatically goes to the save screen, and then like goes to your file and deletes it. It's like deleting file and like deleting it.